that's something I want to share to actually show you the reality of what's happening in cyberspace when it comes to these issues. My name is Shereen Williams. I'm the Regional Cohesion Coordinator for East Gwent. And in case you're wondering why I'm doing this workshop of all random things in my cohesion work, I also run a charity called the Henna Foundation, and we deal with victims from communities that have what I call honor-codified behavior, so victims of honor-based violence, forced marriage. And in the past few years, we've had a lot of young girls, well, and grown women as well, who are victims, but the risks to them are actually quite different from your average white Welsh girl or white Welsh woman, because there's lots of complications around family, community perception, and the risk that they're in. Some of this work's been profiled recently on Newsnight on victims of how revenge porn affect victims, for example, from Asian communities, from communities where HPV is prevalent. I'm going to talk about sexting first and then go into revenge porn, because I think it makes more sense than the other way around. So, does everyone here know what sexting is? Oh, that's good. Dave didn't shake. He said, Dave, do you know what sexting is? Okay, just checking. Just checking. I'm going to pick on you. I'm going to pick on you because, you know, I know you. And yeah. So, basically, this is a summary of what sexting is. It's naked pictures or nudes, underwear shots, sexual or dirty pictures, rude text messages or videos. So I thought, when I was asked to prepare for the workshop, I thought, all right, let's just Google sexting. Don't look so horrified. I Googled sexting, and these were the top 10 sites that came up. Have a look. So let's ignore Wikipedia, because that comes out first all the time, and ignore, all right, Childline in terms of safety, but look at all the sites that came up. First one, how to send sexy texts. Breathless, mastering the art of sexting. The art of sexting. Send sultry texts with safety in mind. 19 playful and super sexy texts. I'm not going to read the next one. 100 top sexting examples. And at the bottom, it was finally related sexting, shame, and suicide. It was the story of a young girl from the States who went to a party. She got drunk. 3 boys took her to a room. They didn't rape her. They took off her clothes, and with a marker pen drew all sorts of things on her body, took her picture, circulated the pictures, and not long after that, she committed suicide. That was the story. So if you were a teenager and somebody said, oh, send me a sext, and you Google, that story is going to be quite far at the bottom. So you wouldn't think about the dangers. You'd think, oh, how can I do this as best as I possibly can? So I thought, you know, I'll be smart. Let's click on something that looks familiar, Vogue. This is how Vogue describes sexting. Sexting is the new love letter. Sexting is an important life skill. If the ability to pen a beautiful love letter got our grandparents the girl, today, having a baller sexting game can be the difference between a Tinder match that goes nowhere and being able to actually touch a person in real life. High stakes, people. But sexting is not only for the new lovers, 16-year-olds, which really worried me when I read that, and politicians and their mistresses. It can also improve your long-term relationship. And it's no simple task. In order to compete in today's sexting world, you have to be the right combination of witty and dirty. That's glorification of sexting. And I have to add a caveat, I don't think it's an issue when it's 2 consenting, mature adults in a relationship sexting each other or dating, etc., on the basis that when that relationship ends or things don't work out, things get deleted and you move on. But when you have teenagers reading that, thinking, yeah, forget reading and arithmetic, that's what I've got to learn, we've got problems. 1 in 3 UK teenagers have received sexually suggestive messages. Some research was done by NSPCC, and these were some of the scenarios they shared. And when I was reading it, I've got a teenage stepdaughter who's 14 with a mobile phone. Obviously, that freaked me out as well. So the respondents said, like, the questions would be like, would you have sex with me, lights on, lights off? Socks on, socks off? What position, to what song, condom or no condom? Stuff like that. So you're being asked to respond to these questions quickly, and if you don't respond, it's not the person asking the question who looks bad, it's you. You're the prude, you're the loser. I remember talking to a 14-year-old teenage girl in Cardiff, and she said to me one day, she said, you have no idea how hard it is being a teenager right now. if you don't have a boyfriend, or if you're not involved in any of this, you get picked on, or you get ostracized, or people say all sorts of things about you. And I thought, when I was 15, all I was worried was bad haircuts and boy bands. Things like this weren't on my radar. And I'm not that old. I'm still under 35. So, okay, maybe it was 20 years ago, but still, it's scary. Another one. See, well, like say I got a girlfriend, I'd ask her to write my name on her breast and send it to me, and then I'd upload it onto Facebook or Bebo or something like that. But like some people would say who it is, but some people won't. Oh, okay, so like are you going out with someone at the moment? Yeah. So have you got pictures of her like that? Yeah. And these are kids in the teenagers. I mean, so imagine the pressure being put on that young girl to, oh, come on, or if you really love me, if you really want to be with me, send me a picture of my name on your breast so I can show people that I own you. That's what it is. It's about ownership, it's about control. And this was quite upsetting to read as well, about munch screen. So if somebody said that to you in what you thought was a private chat in a private conversation, it's like, basically do a screenshot of that conversation and those elements and put it as your profile, and everybody can see that basically you, young lady, said that. And what do you think they're going to call her when she goes to school tomorrow? I think the word slag comes to mind. That's what she's going to get called. She's going to get called all sorts of names because somebody thought it was a smart idea to screenshot that and what she thought was a private conversation, maybe with a boy she might have had a crush on. Some things they found out was, why are people doing this, particularly young people? It's the threat from your peers. Everyone is doing it. And when you're 15 or 14 and you think your boyfriend is the one and he's Prince Charming, and he's telling you, come on, if you really love me, if you really want to be with me, do it, you would. And not surprisingly, girls are most adversely affected. Technology, you can share something so quickly. That makes the problem far worse. It also talks about the wider sexual pressures put on girls. For example, if you plan maybe at 14 or 15 to remain a virgin, when your boyfriend is harassing you and saying, will you have sex with me, socks on, socks off, condom on, condom off, that is pressure. That is wider pressure. And they're saying that even younger kids are doing it. It's not, 14, 15-year-olds. It's younger. It's getting younger and younger. People are being asked to send pictures. And what I found quite interesting, because of the work I do around honor-based violence, is that sexting practices are culturally specific. One of the things that I've raised with practitioners in the past few years is that the definition of what sext is, or revenge porn, will differ for people. I said, for a young Muslim girl, for example, who's been wearing a scarf her whole life, her sending a picture without a scarf to a boy at the age of 13 or 14 could have the same consequences of somebody else sending a picture of them topless. The impact within families and how families perceive it as dishonor, as showing, because for some women, hair, your arm, for example, wearing a sleeveless top, that is private space. That is an issue. It's considered your private personal property, and now you are sharing it through a text with some random boy, who will then share it with 10 other friends. So that's around sexting, and these are the rules around, the law around sexting, because at the end of the day, if you've got images of your 16-year-old girlfriend on your phone with her topless, she's still under 18. So that's the legislation that needs to be used, well, basically to scare young people into either deleting it or not doing it. Because pressure is put not just on the person receiving, but also the person sending those pictures. Now, moving on to revenge porn. So, revenge porn is the sharing of private sexual materials, either photos or videos, of another person without their consent and with the purpose of causing embarrassment or distress. Images are sometimes accompanied by personal information about the subject, including their full name, address, and links to their social media profiles. But then, people seem to think revenge porn is something quite new, when actually, it's not. Revenge porn has been around for a very long time. I'm not going to ask anyone here know of Hustler magazine and embarrass yourselves publicly. Hustler had it in the 80s. In the 80s, they had a section in their magazine called Beaver Hunt, where photographs of naked women were sent, and not porn stars, just your average lady, and accompanied by details about her hobbies, her sexual fantasies, and sometimes her name. And not all the women that were featured in Beaver Hunt had sent in their pictures. It was ex-boyfriends, ex-husbands, people who wanted to cause them embarrassment and distress. That is the original revenge porn. It's not social media. Social media's made it easier, but that was our original revenge porn. Then we come 2 decades later, we've got a strong interest in real pornography, like where you can put stuff up on XTube and RedTube of amateur porn, basically. Sex videos couples take of themselves when people break up, they send it through there. And in fact, it's become so popular that professional porn companies are now using this whole concept of just normal people having sex and putting up on XTube and RedTube as amateur porn when it's actually professional companies doing it, just to feed that interest of people, of voyeurism, or people want to watch not porn stars doing it, but people walking the streets, everyday people that you walk across. There's that interest. And then you've got this now, digital, where you've got social media sites. You've got the Is Anyone Up that was set up by Hunter Moore, and that was actually even far worse. It would put information like the person's name, their employers, their address, and their social media profiles. So you could get all that. If you were an angry, disgruntled ex-partner and you really wanted to humiliate and destroy your ex-partner, that's the site you'd put it up on. There was a journalist who, the reason why I included those 2 lines was because a journalist put up, as part of research, put her pictures up, she's pretending to be a ex-partner, and those were the kind of messages that came out on the message board under her picture. Read that vile. I would destroy this bitch and treat her like the slutbag she is. I wouldn't read the second line, but you can see for yourself. So all this anger are not from her ex-boyfriend, but it's just random people on the website who's just typing all this towards her. So this is the kind of threats, and you don't know who these people are, and that's the scary bit. You could be walking and sitting next to a man who maybe half an hour ago wrote this on this site about you. Imagine how you feel as a woman in terms of your personal safety. That is what's on, and this is actually the milder stuff. There's far worse stuff that was written about her. Now, in the past, there were different ways to get people charged to stop the sharing of those videos and those pictures. Anyone here know Tulisa, the pop star? She was on X Factor. She, not so long ago, had a case around a private tape that was being leaked. I mean, it was settled out of court, but this was prior to the new law being in place, making it a criminal offence. However, one of the challenges of this new law is that the threshold is actually quite high when you go to criminal court, and there's a lot of focus on actually intent, the intent to cause the victim distress. So the focus is there. So you've got there's some new convictions. First revenge porn conviction after Kidderminster man shares sexually explicit pictures of his victim. One of the youngest persons to be charged, and this was a 14-year-old boy who was trying to sell pictures of his ex-girlfriend for £10. He had pictures of her in an inappropriate picture of her on his phone, and he basically offered to sell it for £10, whoever wanted it. He was only 14. However, I know people say, once it's out on the internet, that's it, it's there forever. And that's true. However, some tech companies are getting involved with this when they realize that actually it's non-consensual pictures and videos. So, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Twitter, they've all made a commitment to actually remove it. If you're a victim and you report it to them, or your solicitor writes to them, they will remove links to those videos, pictures straight away. They would block the accounts of the people who've been sharing it or posting it, and obviously they'll remove pictures and videos. But the problem you've got is that nothing ever happens to the websites. In terms of the law, they will still continue hosting other videos, other pictures, and without being shut down. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there's an issue with the burden of proof in terms of the high threshold in criminal court, as well as the focus on intent. Activists have called for perhaps a civil protection order to come into place to support this law and make it more user-friendly, I suppose, and also stuff around actually holding websites accountable. What some people have done is actually use the copyright law to force websites to remove those videos. But it's quite hard to prove copyright law, So you'd have to prove that actually that video is mine. It's not my partner, my ex-partner's, it's mine. So you need to remove it on that basis. Not don't remove it because I said no. Remove it on the basis because I own the copyright to those videos. So that's a way that websites have been challenged. But I mean, I don't think it's enough. I think, you know, private videos, text, etc. should remain private. And, you know, if people choose to share it, they shouldn't be given a platform to share it. There was a slide before this which I had to delete because the video wasn't working. It was basically a Newsnight piece which looked at a young victim. She was in her mid-20s. She's from a Asian background. Her husband, her ex-husband, after they broke up, basically once they were married, he would take pictures of her and videos and shots and all sorts. When that marriage ended badly, he decided to set up a website with her name on it, her address, with all those pictures, and said, if you'd like a full DVD, if you'd like a DVD of more pictures and full videos, send £10 to her father's address in Bangladesh. This is what happened to that young girl. This happened a few years ago, and she has had to deal, number one, no blame was put on this guy within that particular section of that community. The blame was put on her. Why did you let him do it? Why did you let him take the pictures? And she said, well, he was my husband, number one, so I thought it's somebody whom I'm very intimate with, it's very personal, it would remain between the two of us. And she said, and also, half those pictures I didn't know he had. So he was, you know, taking discreet pictures, etc., without her knowing. So that was that. And then it became, her family got ostracized because what kind of family brings up a girl like that? Notice again, the perpetrator is never mentioned. Nothing happens to him and his family. In fact, he happily got remarried months after. So what I wanted you guys to think about is, especially particularly for those of you who work in cities or areas where it's very diverse, what happens, for example, when you've got, what risk factors would you consider when you've got victims who come from such communities? How do you treat them? Because you actually, to be honest, in terms of you know, equitable, being, you know, equal in response, it's not being the same in response. You would have to actually consider a lot more risk factors for her, for that young person. We've had 15, 16-year-old girls coming to us saying, look, I've sent somebody a picture of myself without my scarf on with me in like a bikini top. And we're talking about girls whose parents, whose father probably, have never seen her in shorts since she was about 6, 7 years old. And that picture is circulating in the mosque, in the community. Her father's going to the mosque, praying, knowing that other men in the mosque might have seen those pictures of her. How would you, as a practitioner, deal with those risks? What would you do? And then what would you do when a victim comes to you and actually the threshold of it being revenge porn isn't met? What safeguards would you have in place if your victim, you know, if it's officially, it doesn't hit the definition of revenge porn, but the impact of it is equivalent? And last but not least, are you aware of any anti-bullying, body confidence, cyber safety programs that's available in your areas, which with a bit of modification could cover these issues? Go ahead and discuss. Thank you very much.